Hello guys and welcome back to Big Brother UK. Today we're going to be looking at all of the drama that happened last night, and there was a lot. There was discussions about food, there was discussions about rule breaking, there was punishments for some of the housemates, and there was just a lot of crying and drama and a lot of stuff going on. So let's dive straight into it. Before I get into some of the meatier topics of this episode, let's just have a discussion about some of the things that happened at the start of the episode. So Dylan was in the diary room and he was saying that he was glad to still be here and to have another week in the house. And he was like, I don't want to go anywhere. And I can't help but feeling that Dylan will not go anywhere. The way that Big Brother works in the UK is really bad, in my opinion, because you get people who are not very interesting making it all the way to the end, but then the people who are making the series interesting get voted out early because they're a pain to live with. In the US version, it's a lot more interesting because it doesn't matter who you want to live with. It's all a big game, and it doesn't matter whether you hate that person. If they're not a big threat to your game, there's no point getting rid of them unless you have no other choice. So I feel like the way this series is going currently, we could be seeing a very, very boring finale, which sucks. But I don't know. It's the way that it's always been in the UK, and I think now that I've seen how the US version functions, it's more interesting to me because it's more of a you won't know who goes from week to week. Whereas this, I can kind of guess who won't make it to the finale and who will be voted out just based on how people are behaving within the house. The second topic that I noticed was Zach talking to Henry, and there was a lot of talk about sort of, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? From Zach to Henry. And Henry was like, yeah, I'm fine. And Zach was very confused as to why he'd been voted. And it after the events of Tuesday's episode and this episode, I can understand why you've been voted. You are a shit stirrer, essentially, and people are starting to catch on to that and notice that you're backstabbing people to help your own cause, which, if this was the US version, fair enough, that's the game, but that's not what this version's about. So I don't know. His motivations seem very, very shaky and suspicious at the moment. I don't believe that he is trying very hard to be everyone's friend. I just don't trust him currently, which is a shame because I didn't really have any strong opinions on him first week, and then the second week he's gone right down in my opinion. So who knows? I don't know. Like I said before, anything that I say about these people is purely about what I'm seeing on TV, not a comment on who they are as people. It's what I'm seeing on TV. So these people could be playing games and it's not necessarily who they are in real life. So I just want to put that out there. One of the more interesting conversations that happened was between Trish, Jordan, and Henry was opening up about how speaking to Trish, and being friends with her has really sort of opened his mind up and sort of made him question his ethics and had him change some of his ethics as well, which I thought was really, really interesting. He has been hounded online for being a Tory, and yes, not great. However, the content of his character on the show is giving me something that doesn't necessarily add up to that. He said that he voted for Boris because he wanted to have a martini or a drink with him. Fair enough. People do make stupid decisions, but I don't know whether we should judge him on his previous political views, if you get what I mean. Who knows? He might come out of the house a raging Labour supporter. We don't know. Other things that happened in that conversation was they were talking about Paul and how he just has no conversation. And I couldn't agree more, because we see nothing from Paul, and then he'll just say the most random thing and then not say anything interesting. Apparently on some of the live streams he's been saying he's been questioning why there's no straight Pride Month, and it's coming across, you don't support the gays. Not good. Not good at all. The last thing that they talked about was about Zach projecting anxiety onto Henry, which I thought was a very, very interesting topic for them to bring up, because I do feel like Zach is very nervous about going on Friday and doesn't know whether he'll win over Henry, whereas I think Henry's kind of made his peace with the fact that if he goes, he goes. And it also probably helps that Jordan keeps taking the piss out of him and being like, oh, well, you're going tomorrow, or you're going in 2 days. I think there was a brilliant moment in the last episode where Henry had said something on the lines of like, I'll be going on Friday, and Jordan said, you don't know that, you might be going tomorrow. And it was just such a funny, light-hearted way of turning such a shitty situation into something that you can laugh about. One of the bigger talking points of this episode was Yinrun having a conversation with Noki and Jenkin, and then both of them kind of just walking away in the middle of it. And it was a little bit weird from both of them, and I don't know whether what had happened. It was more Noki than Jenkin, because Jenkin kind of said, hi, how are you? And then the conversation with Noki started, and he kind of just dipped, because obviously he wasn't part of that conversation. But Noki, the way that they ended the conversation was just kind of rushed, and it felt like Noki wanted to get away. And so later on, Yinrun was having a conversation with Trish and was saying, like, there are some people in this house I just don't like. And I think this is the first time we've seen a little bit of bite from Yinrun, and I'm kind of liking it. I think it's nice to have that edge, because we don't get to see that a lot from her. And then she went into the diary room and sobbed her little heart out, saying that she feels like, why do people not want to, why did people not find me interesting? Why do they leave conversations halfway through? And I do agree, it's rude. I can't say I'm innocent of that with people, but I do try and at least finish a conversation before moving on. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you're in a conversation that you don't really want to be in, but I don't know, when you're living with this person, and it's not like she's a horrible person or she's not fun to talk to. I would love to listen to all of Yinrun's stories. I wish that the whole show was just Yinrun, but oh well. I hope she feels better soon. Trish comforted her afterwards, which was really lovely, and I thought that was a really nice gesture. Okay, it's time to talk about the rule break, and I have some very, very strong opinions on this whole segment, because I thought some of it was just blown way out of proportion, and I thought it was just a little bit ridiculous, if I'm being honest. Firstly, I saw that they were communicating in code last episode, but I also refuse to believe that Big Brother was not able to read that code, like, at all, because I'm sure there should have been a camera trained on Olivia's back, and they would have been able to see what Hallie was writing, what Olivia was writing on Hallie, and I don't think it's that deep. If they were if they'd made up their whole language, fair enough, but like, nothing that they said was necessarily bad, or what they could have said out loud just in a whisper. So like, it just felt a little bit like, oh, you're just punishing them for the sake of punishing them. However, I will say this: the way they went about the exposing them was incredible. They like gave detailed transcripts of what happened. They told them about like, as a game player, and then spoke about the NO that was written on the back, and obviously Noki thought it was about her. I don't think it was about her, because like, I would like to believe what Hallie said it was. Hallie stood up and said, basically, I said Zach was a game player, and I said Matty put me up for nominations. When she said the second one, Oh, I feel really bad for her because she was just explaining why she did it, but she ended up breaking another rule, which was don't talk about nominations. And she spoke about nominations, and then she spoke about nominations again later, when she was talking about, or talking to Noki. But I'll get onto that later. So she's been punished again. I wonder whether we'll see that in tonight's episode, or if that was sort of like a late and live exclusive, but she has been punished again, which sucks. But anyway, so Ali didn't seem very remorseful and was kind of laughing it off as a joke, but Olivia did seem genuinely remorseful, and she was shitting herself because she thought, fuck, is this me getting kicked out of the house? No, they were just made to put on prison overalls and stand in the yard in mini prisons, which was really funny. And then it started raining, and it got even funnier because they were out there for like 2.5 hours, and it was pouring with rain, like soaking, to the point where both girls were crying by the end of it. Like, do I think it was a little bit cruel? Kind of. I don't know whether I'd want to stand out in the pouring rain for 2.5 hours, but I don't know. It didn't really affect me as much as I thought it would. Hallie and Olivia are two people. I like Olivia a lot more now, but Hallie I like a lot less now, which is strange. Like, the people in the house that I'm currently disliking, there's 5 of them, and it is 6 if you include Noki, but I don't know. Noki's just weird at the moment, and I don't know where I stand with her. So the 5 that I don't like at the moment are Kerry, Hallie, Matty, Paul, Zach. They're the 5 that I just, if they went tomorrow, fair enough, go home. Maybe not Kerry. Kerry does bring some entertainment, whereas the other 4 do not, which sucks. But the game's the game. Do you know what I mean? They were pissed off, and they did apologise to the people that they hurt early, like later on. Or Hallie did at least. Olivia actually didn't do anything, I don't think. Hallie was the one that wrote the messages on there. But obviously Olivia was still communicating in some kind of code. So yeah, and it was just a weird punishment, but it's nice that they're actually punishing them for breaking the rules, though. One of the more frustrating parts of the episode, and this was where I started to really dislike Matty, was he became such a negative person in this episode, and it was really disappointing to see, because Matty was someone that, like, was kind of in the background, had the odd funny moment, but never really did anything for me. And then this episode, as soon as they were like, oh yeah, I said Matty voted for me or nominated me, suddenly he was raging and fuming and just so angry. And I thought, why are you getting so worked up over something that genuinely doesn't involve you? She has not said anything negative about you. She's just said, I think Matty voted for me, which you did. I'm fairly certain. No, he voted for Olivia and Kerry. Ignore me. But, like, it's got nothing to do with you, Matty. Pipe down. Don't start, like... it really did annoy me, because I just sat there and I was like, why are you making such a big deal out of this? And it was this. I had the same reaction to Noki when they told her it wasn't about you. Oh, but I can't help but feel it was about me. Get a grip. If they've said that it's not about you, take it at face value. You can't live your life thinking, oh, are people talking about me behind my back? Because that's not how things work. And especially in the Big Brother house, of course they're talking about you behind your back. You're in a confined space with like 15 other people. You're going to bitch about people. You're going to have a moan about people, because people are going to get on your nerves. And if you don't do that, I refuse to believe you won't do that at any point in the potential 6 weeks that you're there for. I just don't believe it. I don't. I'm sorry. And it really did wind me up seeing the reactions to it, because some people just like let it go instantly, and then there was like Matty and Noki just kept bringing it up, kept bringing it up, and I was just, it got to the point where I was like, they're serving a punishment. They're standing outside in the pouring rain for 2.5 hours for doing something that's not even that deep. Get over yourself, please. Okay, we're now into potentially dangerous territory because we've got to discuss the Zach, Matty, Kerry situation. And there's been a lot of discussion on sort of online about what happened. And I think it's only fair if I break it down and sort of talk about who's at fault where, if that makes sense. So, as far as I remember, the conversation surrounding Matty's eating habits was not that deep. All Olivia was saying was, just notice he eats a lot of food. Nothing negative was said about it as far as I can remember. Kerry then chimed in and was like, yeah, he does eat a lot. And Zach was like, oh, I've never noticed, but I'll keep an eye out. That was the conversation that we saw. Okay? I don't know whether there was extra bits that were cut or whatever. I don't know. But that conversation was in confidence and was under the impression that one of those three people is not going to go and tell Matty what's been said about them. Okay? I understand Matty has a right to know. But it really wasn't that deep. And it then became deep because Zach went, Kerry and Olivia have been chatting about you, been saying you eat a lot, etc., etc., running his mouth, and I was not impressed with him, and he now currently sits at the bottom of my rankings. I really, really dislike him because this episode proved he was a shit stirrer. Proved it. So he's gone to Matty. Matty's now upset. Matty's gone to Kerry. I will admit, Kerry was wrong for for what she said in that conversation. Matty was trying to say you don't know people's relationships with food. You don't understand. Basically hinting at eating disorders, which if he has one, fair enough. That's his business. That's his business alone. However, what Kerry said, she was basically going, I think you're being a little bit touchy about it. I think you're being a little bit sensitive. And it just came off as condescending and like she wanted to leave the conversation. Which, if I'm being honest, if I was in that situation, I would feel uncomfortable. I probably would have argued a little bit back and explained my point a little bit better rather than just shutting him down. But I think Zach made it a bigger deal than it should have been. And it wasn't deep. And people voted for Matty for that reason because they're in a house full of 15 people and there's a limited food budget. So you can't be eating massive amounts because then the food runs out quicker. So that's why people nominated Trish. That's why people nominated Zach. That's why people nominated Matty. It really does bug me because this whole drama happened because Zach was shit stirring. Matty had to have the conversation with Kerry to get it off his mind. Fair enough. I'm not mad at him for that because you got to do what you got to do. I'm pissed off at Kerry because she dealt with it in a shit way and probably made things worse. But Zach was the one that's in the fault here. And when Kerry went back to him and was like, you're being bitchy, you were going around saying a conversation that was held in private and you've gone and told the people. And I think that's really snaky behaviour. I think that's really snaky behaviour and it's not someone that I would want to live with. If I'm having a conversation with you about other people in the house, it's because I trust you. And now that trust has been broken because you've gone and said what I've said to somebody else. I gotta say, I did agree with Kerry on that point. Yeah, she was bitching. Yeah, they were bitching. But he was the snake. Matty didn't need to know. It wasn't a big enough deal. She said that when she was speaking to him. She said, I didn't think it was a big enough deal to bring it up with you. I was just pointing out an observation or something along that. I can't remember exactly the word she said. I was just pointing out an observation and this whole thing just blew up. It's really disappointing that Zach was the one that caused all this. Get him out on Friday, please. Well, it's time for some iconic quotes and moments, and the first one today was Henry talking about his experience after being nominated as if like everyone was treating him like he was terminally ill. It was a funny line. Yeah, it was a little bit of like a ooh, that's a bit of a dark joke, but it was funny because everyone was kind of like, "Oh, Henry, are you okay? Are you all right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just need to get over my current emotions and process it. Please leave me alone." And I did understand that. So yeah, that was my first iconic moment. My second one was Dylan rapping in the kitchen and passing the mic to Yinran, and Yinran having absolutely no idea what to say in response. It was it was a really funny, sweet, endearing scene, and I really do like. I'm liking Dylan more and more the more I see him. We're not seeing enough of him because I don't think he's getting involved in all the dramas that are happening in the house, but I do really like him, and Yinran's just queen. Um, as for my next thing, also concerning Yinran, they were having a conversation. I think it was about a spider, um, called I can't remember what the spider was called, but they were like saying like, "Ooh, might have crawled on all over you in the night," and it was just really funny to see her like, "Ooh, ooh." So yeah, that was quite a funny moment. Tom and Paul had a bath together in this episode, which was funny. But then Paul was like, "Have you pissed in it?" And Tom went, "No, not yet." And it did make me chuckle. So I thought I might as well throw that one in there. And the final point I want to bring up is Jordan continuing his tactical niceness and having a little bit of a banter with Kerry about it. Because I think Kerry was like, "Why are you being so helpful?" And he was like, "Oh, it's purely performative. It's all tactical niceness." And he's just the funniest person on on the show, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I would say the funniest person on the show. So, thank you guys very, very much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow for my review of the live eviction in which either Henry or Zach will be going home and essentially doing their exit interview and seeing the public's reception to them. I'll be very, very interested to see which one of them goes, because I think last week could have gone either way. This week, I'm pretty certain Zach's going, but I still think that there's a lot of resentment for Henry because he said that he voted for the Tories. So I don't know. I don't know. Are you going to judge someone for being a snaky little bitch, or are you going to judge someone for who they voted for in the past and not who they are in the House? That's the decision I put forward to you guys. So, thank you very much, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. Keep on ranting. Bye now.